Bitcoin, and at first I didn't think it would work. I guess I'd almost convinced myself decentralized money was fundamentally impossible. Like there's something about physics or math which says certain things can never work. Maybe decentralized money is one of those things that can never work. So when I saw Bitcoin, I was like, I don't know, it's probably got some fatal flaws. Like there's so much, the different players have to like coordinate and synchronize so much. They all have to have the same clock or timestamps as each other. That'll probably not work. Like once it scales up big enough, it'll probably fall apart. But then I remember there was this website. Well, I mean, as you may know, I interacted a little bit with Satoshi at that time because he was clearly part of our community in his style and in his political motivations and in his activism. He was absolutely the cypherpunk open source hacker culture, which is we want to change the world for the better and to free people. That's the goal. And the mechanism of action is we're going to write a bunch of code. It was Eric Hughes, the cypherpunk founder, who said that. He said, cypherpunks write code. Satoshi was clearly part of that tradition, even though he was a newcomer, at least to his name. I still don't know if he was one of the original cypherpunks under a new pseudonym or if he was a newcomer, but he joined our culture. But we chatted a few times on like the forum and stuff. He posted his original white paper to one of the mailing lists, which was the successor of the cypherpunks mailing list once the cypherpunks list had gotten overrun by spam and so some of the cypherpunks like decamped and they went to Perry Metzger's cryptography mailing list. But Perry had a rule with the cryptography mailing list, no politics. So it was like, take the cypherpunks, which was all about politics and technology, ban the politics part, and that became the cryptography mailing list. So it was kind of interesting because everyone kind of knew where everyone else was, what wavelength we were on the politics page. We never talked about it on the cryptography mailing list because that was the rule. Anyway, that's where Satoshi posted the Bitcoin white paper. So I read the paper, and like a lot of people who knew too much and had tried and failed, I assumed that this also would fail in some way. Most of the experts, most of the old cypherpunks did the same with the paper when they first saw it. And when Satoshi put up the first web page about Bitcoin, he linked to my blog and to, I think, Wei Dai and Nick Szabo. I think there was 3 links and I was one of them. And then a little while later, I saw some people actually using Bitcoin. There was a website and a discussion on a forum and stuff like that. I think they were maybe in the East Coast of the United States. They called themselves agorists or something like that. And what they were doing was unlicensed food sales. So like raw milk, you're not allowed to sell people raw milk without homogenizing it properly or whatever, or butter. I don't know exactly what it was. But for some reason it struck me as really funny that was their form of civil disobedience. Like they rejected smashing the windows of the bank or whatever, because that would be violence, which was against their principles. But they found it very moral to violate the local food safety laws or the national food safety laws. I don't know. But they were using Bitcoin for that. And then I was like, wow, I guess there is something to this. Like it's been months, it's the Lindy effect. Whatever survives long enough, then it becomes worth paying attention to. I'm like, wow, that thing apparently does work because people are using it for an actual purpose. So that's when I got really interested in Bitcoin. And of course, it spread and spread, right? More and more people found out about it. More and more people started using it. My old friend and collaborator, Hal Finney, was an essential contributor to Bitcoin from the early days. He was one of those people that I had worked with Phil Zimmerman on PGP decades before on the cypherpunks list. He was a great contributor to the cypherpunks list, and he was a great contributor to the open source movement, where some of them called him Gandalf because he would drop in to their like planning sessions and he would give them all this wise advice, like actually you can use this cryptography in these ways and not the way you're doing it. And then he would disappear again. And so they called him Gandalf after the behavior of Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. Anyway, I love that guy. And he and the other early Bitcoiners really did an amazing job. It was the first time I had seen the open source cypherpunk ethos of changing the world by writing code actually start to work. Bitcoin started changing the world. And the long dry spell when I thought I was the last lonely cypherpunk and that mainstream culture had rejected privacy and consent as being achievable or as being valuable, that suddenly changed, and all these people showed up who did care about that. And I am eternally grateful to Satoshi Nakamoto. He changed history that way.
I looked at Bitcoin. I saw a bunch of influencers and a bunch of people who advocate a kind of right-wing politics, and a bunch of people who are talking about just accumulating, generational wealth. And one of the things that I found fascinating talking to you about it is the other side of it that isn't the influencers. That's the utility as permissionless money as a way of empowering people who are unbanked, empowering people who are stuck, with cross-border transactions. Yeah. I wonder if you could talk about sort of the progressive nature of Bitcoin.
All you have to do is look at the first page of the white paper, which I encourage everyone to do, which is it only sought out to solve one problem, which is verifying that there's no double spending. You're not spending twice without having to rely upon a third party. Like, it literally is just, how do we transmit money without having to rely on a Visa or MasterCard or a bank to tell us that this was not a double transaction? That was it. That was the innovation. And the title of the white paper is Electronic Peer-to-Peer Cash. Like, that was the dream. That was the intention. It was supposed to be a way to transmit money, protocol for the internet to transmit money anywhere without a Visa or MasterCard or a bank or any gatekeeper whatsoever. And it's become, and it's not like, I think the true Bitcoiner's dream is still that it's money, but it's become this like digital gold narrative, which I think is important because, like, if it's valuable, more people want to work on it. And you can think of Bitcoin like you would an equity or an asset. And if I make it better, then that asset goes up and I can, convert it to whatever I need or just, give it to merchants to pay for food for my family, anything I need to do until it's widely, dramatically accepted. But it all goes back to that core concept of, like, the internet needs a native currency. It needs an open protocol for money transmission. Otherwise, we're reliant upon a Visa, a MasterCard, a Stripe, a Square, all these companies, and you have to get permission from them to use them. And I just don't think that's fair.
Yeah, when I saw the video of, President Trump naming you by name and you standing up in the front row, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. What was the significance of the Genius Act that was passed, specifically the stablecoin regulation bill? How did that change? What was the significance of it?
The Genius Act is a very important piece of law because it creates a template for stablecoins. I'm a Bitcoiner and I love Bitcoin. I think it's the most perfect form of money. We saw in 2014 the opportunity to use the same technology that Bitcoin uses to transport fiat currencies and the dollar. We started that in 2014. Until 2024, no one cared about stablecoins. No one thought it was a good idea. At least in the Western world, in the rich world, people were skeptics. This year seems like everyone and their sisters want to do a stable coin also because of the Genius Act. That is, in my opinion, is a great thing. Competition is always good. It's how technology improves. But as a Bitcoin lover, I think that it's important to put everything in context. And I think that I'm not a big fan of all the other altcoins and blockchains. But I think that stable coins have a reason to exist because not everyone out there understands Bitcoin yet. And everything is relative. You have people that live in emerging markets like Bolivia or Argentina, where we do Bitcoin education there, but people there have bigger problems, and their main worry in this moment is that the fact that the Argentinian peso lost 98% of its value against the US dollar. So the only thing that they see with their eyes is a dollar. So they want a dollar, that their mind is focused to get a dollar because they can beat already their national currency by X 100%. That's why stablecoins, while in the United States, for example, you don't have much need of a stablecoin, in my opinion, elsewhere, and that's why I say all is relative, you have a strong need of a stablecoin because the current options are very bad. That's why we focused on building a digital dollar that could serve 500 million users. Just a few days ago, we crossed the mark of 500 million users, and we have around $183 billion of dollars under management for USDT. And when the Genius Act passed, we actually were able to explain, all this, what we're doing in Africa, in Central South America, in Asia, in terms of dollar hegemony, buy back the U.S. Treasuries. We are probably the 17th largest holder of U.S. Treasuries in the world. And at the same time, I think that the Genius Act allowed us also to look at the United States as an opportunity, as a new market. Because with the previous administration, there was Operation 2.0, the OCC was trying to kill banks that were supporting crypto, and that was not good. So now that at least there is clarity, and the Genius Act is a statement of clarity of the will of the government to support this technology, then we felt confident that we could enter the United States, because then there was going to be a rule of law and there was a framework for us to operate in the United States. And so we are entering the United States. We believe that we have invested in Rumble. We're working with Rumble to build a Rumble wallet that will have Bitcoin, USDT, and USAT and Tether Gold inside, so that we start with a 51 million user base, that is the active user base of Rumble. And so all that is possible through the Genius Act.
We don't play that. We don't play that. G-Unit. We don't play around.